Can't believe it. This is it. This is a show all about me accepting my journey's over. Let's get into it. Yes, and welcome to the Mad Watch Collector Show. Right, for the last 10 years, ever since I bought my first dive watch, the SKX009, I've been on a quest, a mission, a journey to find my perfect dive watch. A dive watch that gives me the best in everything I'm looking for in a dive watch. From the brand to its construction, right down to the operation and functionality. Now, sometimes we can get carried away wanting a certain brand, a brand status, if you will, because maybe owning a Rolex Submariner isn't a sense of achievement and self-worth, like the fact with the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, to have the watch from a brand that made the first commercial dive watch is pretty sweet, and sometimes wanting a brand so much can hide the certain specifications it may be lacking. Or you might be one that is a spec whore. You, sir, no bad thing, and sometimes to own a watch that on paper is far better than any other watch in the room is pretty desirable. Now, if I'm being totally honest, my search for the perfect watch for me ended in 2020 when I got the Tudor Black Bay 58. And even though the realization of this has just sort of happened, this dive watch to me, for me, is pretty perfect. And it's close to perfect because it scores very highly on my what it takes to be a dive watch chart. I've got 5 aspects I score this from, and after I've done this, I'd like you guys in the comments below to tell me of your perfect dive watch for you. Remember, I'm not saying this is perfect for you, I'm saying it's perfect for me. So if you disagree, I'm not that bothered. So first of all, let's talk about brand. And for me, a brand with a history is very alluring. Now, Tudor were a company that were formed in 1926, and it was the brainchild of owner and founder of Rolex, Hans Wilsdorf, to make as elegant and robust watches just like Rolex, just put a more affordable movement in the case. This is why to a lot of people, they call Tudor the poor man's Rolex. And to some extent, they're not wrong, are they? Not wrong for back in the day. These days, however, Tudor are their own thing. They don't use Rolex cases, bracelets, or anything else, and they manufacture their own in-house movements. And the only relationship they have with Rolex nowadays is that they are owned by them, and if they end up trying to copy one of Rolex's old watches, they won't get sued. But a Tudor is an aspirational brand for me and all for you guys that don't own more than one house. It's a watch you don't buy just on a whim or because your mate's got one, and it's certainly not a status symbol. A Tudor is a top-notch Swiss timepiece, and even though the price is rising up on Tudors, the overall value for money package compared to Rolex is huge. It's a very well-made luxury tool watch, and if I'm thinking about it, it's more of a Hans Wilsdorf Rolex than an actual modern-day Rolex is now, even though the Submariner has that DNA of the first ones back in 1953. It's blinged up to the nines.
Built for showing off.
And you just can't say that with Tudor watches.
Could you just click that like button, please? It really helps the channel. Thank you.
So I've got the brand that I love with great heritage and history, and when you look at this watch with your eyeballs, it's basically a greatest hits of the best parts of the old Rolex and Tudor Submariners back in the day, while still maintaining its own individual character, and you know it's a Tudor. The 58 OG has a warmth to it that just makes you feel good. The gilt dial, the gold bezel and black aluminium insert, the vintage red triangle with the loom pip, and that awesome big chunky crown at 3 o'clock with no crown guards. This is everything I want to see in a brand I love with one of their dive watches. The finish and feel of this watch is very important to me as well. I want this to feel like a luxury watch. I don't want just to be told it's a luxury watch, you know? Not saying any names. Oh, I want to see the refinement in those applied indices, the intricate coin edge bezel, the chamfering between the polishing and the brushing, and the beautiful, like jewelry polished size of the case. When you handle and feel one of these watches, it really does feel special to me. Now, I can only describe the way I look at this Black Bay 58 would be like a song. The best song you love in the world will probably have no more than 3, 4, 5 chords to it. And it's always the simplest songs are the most most memorable, anthemic, and timeless. When you talk about the feel of the watch, it's the operating and the using the parts that are twistable. What sort of feelings do you get from that? On a dive watch, you get a unidirectional dive time bezel and usually a screw-in crown. And the Black Bay 58's bezel action is amazing, only beaten by one other watch. That was the Pelagos 39. Operating the crown of this MT5402 movement is fantastic. The unscrewing, the pop, the clicks when you pull it out, and the winding. Also the functionality of the clasp, very satisfying. Click in with a security flap. Tudor uses ceramic ball bearings for the ratcheting of the bezel and for the clasp. It's such a genius move. And when it comes to the bracelet, I love it. It's contentious among a lot of you, but when I run my fingers along that faux riveted side of the bracelet, it gives me a warm vintage feel. Far better than the sterile feel I got from the Pelagos' bracelet. The last thing for me has to be the wearability. Now I have a 6.5-inch wrist and I have realized that when it comes to dive watches, 39mm is the absolute sweet spot for my wrist. But 39mm by 47 lug to lug, under 12mm thick, 20mm lug width, the size is perfection. So there, we've got brand, the look, the feel and the finish, the movement and the wearability. Those are the factors I've always scored my dive watches in, and that is why I feel the Black Bay 58 for me is the perfect dive watch. And I was that sure that I wasn't going to find a better dive watch than that one. A few months back I bought another Black Bay 58, the blue one, and I've got to say I am so glad I did. 4 months owner of 2 Black Bay 58s now, and even though these two watches are the same in specification, sizes, they both have their own little characters to them. When you look at the OG, you get a warmth, a feeling of nostalgia, a nod to the old days. When it comes to the blue,
You get a little nod.
but it's a ready for action modern sports watch. And I've found myself wearing this more at work. I'm a tennis coach by day. This Blue Bay 58 may not have the charm of the OG, so why am I struggling to find which one I love the most? It's like asking a father which son do you like better. These two watches will stay in my collection forever. I will not sell them. Mark my words. I have found the best dive watch for me, so why the heck should I sell it? Now, yes, I know in the comments below we're going to have loads of suggestions saying, no, it's not the best, this is the best, that's the best. Remember, for me, it is the best, okay? Yes, I know all about the Black Bay 54. I went to Watches and Wonders in Switzerland and I saw it in the metal. I've held one in the flesh metal. Unfortunately, the crown's too small for my liking. The bezel insert is a little sterile looking and there's no red triangle on the bezel anymore. Yes, it's a great watch and probably the 37mm on the bracelet is going to fit me lovely. Plus it does have that new T-fit clasp, but it doesn't have the charm my OG does. Alright. Plus it doesn't have a really cool chunky fat crown. And yes, I could have gone for the Pelagos 39, couldn't I? But honestly, for me, a metal watch should not feel that light. Alright. Now of course there are things that I wish they'd improve on this watch, but nothing is ever going to be perfectly perfect. We have to accept near perfection, don't we? Anyway, to round this story off, I feel that my journey, my quest to finding my best perfect dive watch is over. It's time to embrace and be happy with what I've got because it ain't gonna get better. But there are new frontiers to explore. Finding my perfect dress watch, pilot's watch, not field watch, the M100 from Vertex has done that already. But have I found my perfect Casio yet? There's still plenty of things to have fun with, plenty of paths to run along the way, and I gotta say it's exciting. Thank you for watching right up until the end of the show, and if I've got you for a few more minutes, why don't you click this one? This is sensational, yes. A true masterpiece, you would say. Well, I would anyway. Go on, click it, it'll be great. It's worth it, go on. Make you laugh. Go on, click it. Click it.